Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wow, that's a pretty soft response for the GTA. You guys are. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That's more like it. MashaAllah. It's a pleasure to be back in your beautiful community, in your beautiful masjid. During these blessed nights, I think I came for the last 2 years or so. We've been coming and joining you all in these nights. May Allah reward you all for coming. Bless you all for being a part of this. May Allah allow this to be on your scales of good deeds on the day of judgment. Allow this gathering to be a gathering that can be a source of our goodness in the akhirah as well. May Allah bless you all and reward you all, inshaAllah ta'ala. Hopefully, inshallah, in the next 30 to 45 minutes, whatever time that I have allocated, we can share some beneficial information. Inshallah, we'll have a small Q&A at the end. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wal-aqibatu lil-muttaqeen, was-salatu was-salamu ala ashraf al-anbiya'i wal-mursaleen, Sayyidina Muhammadin Nabiy al-Alamin, alladhi ismuhu maktubun fil Injili wa Tawrati, amma ba'd. فقد قال الله عز وجل في كتابه العزيز بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألا تحبون أن يغفر الله لكم وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يا بني إن قدرت أن تصبح وتمسي وليس في قلبك غش لأحد فافعل فذلك من سنتي أو كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. My dear brothers, sisters, youngsters, it is a well-known fact that in this blessed month and through these unique opportunities in these nights, each and every one of us are pursuing Allah's forgiveness, which is the ultimate goal of the month of Ramadan. The Prophet ﷺ climbed upon the minbar and he said Ameen 3 times. And each time he said Ameen to a dua that was made by Jibreel alayhi salam. The first one was, may Allah's wrath be upon those who find their parents alive at an elderly age but they still can't earn Jannah. Like what? Such a loss for them. Number 2, may Allah's wrath be upon those who hear my name, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, but they're too stingy to send salutations upon me. They don't have a heart big enough to send salawat upon me, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And the Prophet said, Ameen. And the third being that may Allah's wrath be upon this person who is so unfortunate that they were alive in the blessed month of Ramadan, but yet somehow they were not able to earn the blessings of the rain of Allah's mercy whilst everyone was benefiting from it. And the Prophet of Allah said, Ameen. Clear understanding that this month invoked within it is the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My dear brothers and sisters, each and every one of us are seeking it and we're pursuing it. That is why we're here. But what if I was to tell you that earning the mercy of Allah, as much as it has to do with how much we're seeking it from Him and how much we're beseeching His mercy and forgiveness, and as much as it has to do with how much we cry in tahajjud and raise our hands, it has more to do with the heart that we have towards each other. That there's impediments, there's barriers between Allah's mercy and us. The mercy of Allah blossoms over everyone, but not everyone is able to take benefit from it. Not because they can't cry in front of Him, not because they don't pray, not because they don't raise their hands, because something is wrong within their hearts towards other believers. It has nothing to do with whether or not that mercy is available. It has more to do with whether or not this person has mercy available in his heart for other people. That one of the conditions and one of the impediments between Allah's mercy that is hovering above every one of us and it actually reaching us and benefiting us is a person. The Prophet says every single person is forgiven in these nights except for an individual, mushahin, a person who harbors hate in his heart, he or she who holds animosity in her heart, that they aren't able to let go and forgive one another. We are hoping for Allah to forgive such misdemeanors of ours, but we're so petty and selfish that we can't forgive the way someone looked at us. We can't forgive the way someone spoke to us. The mercy of Allah is not expensive. It requires a heart that is selfless. The Prophet of Allah ﷺ makes it clear that the process to earn Allah's forgiveness is to forgive others. Irhamu turhamu. Ighfiru yaghfir Allahu lakum. Forgive and you shall be forgiven. Open up your heart towards others, regardless of what they've done to you, how they've harmed you. We've lived 21 days in this month, and some of us have yet to forgive our own siblings. How petty is it that we can't forgive one another for simple disagreements? I'm not speaking about oppression. That's an abnormal situation, and abnormal situations have abnormal responses. We're speaking about normal day-to-day things that happen. And by the way, let's not confuse inconveniences with oppression. Not everything that is dialed up to be oppression is actually oppression. Sometimes it's simply an inconvenience. We've been inconvenienced, and that inconvenience in our mind feels like oppression. Our parents inconvenienced us. Our friends inconvenienced us. Our brothers or sisters, siblings, born from the same parents, lived together for years but yet cannot sit together and speak to each other. What mahabba is that? What iman is that? The Prophet once asked the companions, Ayyul imani awthaq? Ayyul imani awthaq? Which means, which iman? In simpler words, if we were to latch and bank on one good deed within our iman's ecosystem, which one would save us? Which one good deed that we hold on and bank on would actually come through for us? The Prophet asked this question to the Sahaba. Well, if you think of the answer, you may be thinking, well, it must be like fasting, zakat, going for Hajj. These are good deeds that we got to bank on. The Prophet says, Al-muwalatu fillah. Friendship for the sake of Allah. Al-hubbu fillah. Loving each other for the sake of Allah. We claim that we care for believers. That's not confined to caring for believers who are being oppressed in Gaza. We have to care for our own neighbors. The Prophet says, Haqqul Muslimi ala al-Muslimi khamsun. That we have rights upon each other. Whether or not we are friends or we're simply acquaintances, we have, as a believer, your fellow believers have rights upon you. And it has nothing to do with whether or not they're good to you. These are rights. Haqq means it's a fard that we have to do it. Raddu salam. Responding to people's salam. We respond to people's salam based on how we can benefit from them. If it's someone that we know brings benefit to our psychological reserve, it's a different salam. But someone that takes from us or irritates us, or perhaps we don't necessarily enjoy their company, it's okay. You don't have to enjoy everyone's company, but we have to respond to everyone's salam. This is called the month of a believer, and believers are limiting their generosity in how they say salam to each other. عَلَى مَنْ عَرَفْتَ وَمَنْ لَمْ تَعْرِفْ. Forgiveness isn't shaking a believer's hand. The Prophet says, when you shake a believer's hands, your sins fall off your body the way leaves fall off in the fall. Simply by shaking each other's hands, we seek forgiveness through tahajjud and crying in the middle of the night. Ibn Qayyim rahmatullah alayhi says, we can find more forgiveness of Allah in serving one another. Just showing love to one another. Raddu salam. Number 2, ijabatu da'wah. Responding to someone's invitation. That doesn't mean that you have to show up to their da'wah, but it means take just the general courtesy of responding to their message and saying that I can or can't show up. And it's not a matter of it's not about time, it's about care and whether or not that gathering brings benefit to us. That same gathering, that same day someone else invites us, we respond because that's an invitation that is something that benefits me. How often have we invested in relationships where we are not the beneficiaries of? When's the last time we initiated a relationship with someone where the other party was a beneficiary of it? That's forgiveness. The Prophet's entire seerah is him being ahlamun nas wa alyan nas, the softest of people, the kindest of an individual. The Prophet says, al-mu'minuna hayyinuna layyinuna. In these nights, yes, cry in front of Allah, but recognize that if I don't have a soft shoulder towards my fellow believers, that crying won't do me much gain. There's a reason why we pray shoulder to shoulder. It's because it's supposed to bring benefit to our hearts, not because the technicalities matter. There's a reason why we dress the same way when we go for Hajj. It's because it's supposed to bring love within each other. Hayyinuna, we're soft and kind to each other. Our tongue is wary of the other person's sensitivities, not our emotional well-being. We're caring about the other person. من كثر كلامه كثر سقطه ومن كثر سقطه قل حياؤه ومن قل حياؤه مات قلبه. Umar radiyallahu anhu says that the tongue, when a person speaks too much, he hurts people. He breaks a believer's heart, and the Prophet says that the heart of a believer is more beloved to Allah than the Kaaba. The heart of a believer is more beloved to Allah than the Kaaba. A text message is not just a text message. The way you meet someone whilst you're in the masjid or whilst you're at home, or the way you greet your own parents or siblings, it's an ibadah. It's a worship. And when we initiate that ibadah within the commandments of Allah, we are rewarded for it. Hayyinun. We're kind to each other. The Prophet says, Al-mu'minu kan-nahla. The believer is like a honeybee. The believer is like a honeybee. And he explains through various ways how a believer is like a honeybee. I'll just mention 3 of them. Number 1, the honeybee is such that whenever it comes upon the flower to take nectar and extract nectar from the flower, she never puts her full burden upon the flower. You see a picture or a video of the honeybee, it's hovering above the flower. It's not actually she's not putting her full weight upon the flower so that perhaps she may break the petal. A believer is the same way. We never walk into a room or initiate a conversation being a burden upon each other. Yes, we want to be forgiven, but that forgiveness comes from people's hearts. That forgiveness comes from me having a big heart. That we're like that honeybee, that whenever we sit within a group of people, they're not counting down the minutes till we leave. They're counting down the minutes so that we can stay with them. We bring them comfort. We never burden the gathering. We don't burden people whilst we're sitting with them. We don't look at them in a manner that they feel uncomfortable. We talk about making sure our environments are such that everyone is comfortable. That's true when it comes to religious context, but more true when it comes to the context of social interactions. We want to make our spaces open to everyone, yet we don't want to welcome our hearts to everyone. We want our religion to be open to everyone, but our hearts will be confined to those who look like us, speak like us, and perhaps make us happy. تَفَسَّحُوا فِي الْمَجَالِسِ. Open your hearts towards people. The religion is already open. We don't need to open the masjids more than they already are. We need to open our hearts more. The slightest of differences, disagreements become the call of the day for us to gossip about, backbite about. Every deed that we do has the potential of losing its reward. The entire month of Ramadan's reward can be lost when we gossip and backbite. Simply because of a word we say to someone else. Simply because of how we look at someone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ. Woe, woe, meaning the greatest regret on the day of judgment will be experienced by a person who has the practice of doing humuza and lumuza. Humuza doesn't mean to backbite. Humuza simply means that you make someone feel belittled by the way you look at them. The way your face speaks to them. Ibn Abbas says that a person speaks with their eyebrows and their eyes, that someone sits on your dinner table and you do one of these. Or this. That's humuza. Who invited you? The same question can be asked about us. Who invited me? Someone opened the door for me. Let me open the door for someone else. We make the religion broad, but make our hearts broader. The Prophet ﷺ had the biggest heart, ready to forgive everyone and anyone, because that's the call of being a Muslim. Lumuza, how many people's hearts are broken because of the way when they enter to a gathering we point fingers at them? Lumuza doesn't mean that we speak negatively about them. Lumuza means how we use our hands to make them feel belittled. So if someone says that he or she should be responsible for this, and we do one of this, like this, just this. This is lumuza. This is lumuza. And don't think right now, well, everyone already does it, because if that's the way we're thinking, that's not the way of improving ourselves. Do we do it? Do we speak with our eyes? Do we speak with our body? The Prophet ﷺ would not turn his chest away from a slave when he was speaking to him. He would make sure that he would be the last person to let his hand go when he was speaking to them. When we love someone, we make them close the phone before we close it. If you're anyone that's married here, if you're not, you shouldn't understand it. If you do, we have 10 nights for istighfar, right? That's what we're here for. But for loved ones, it could be your parents, your siblings, your spouse. But when you love someone, ask your parents, if you have dormed anywhere and studied abroad, when you call home, your mother will never press the N. She'll never press the red button. She'll wait for you to press it. Your spouse, especially when you first get married, is like, oh, who's going to close the phone? Brother, just close the phone. It's not the day of judgment. You'll talk to her tomorrow. If you are alive, then great. If not, then you'll be in Jannah with her, inshallah. The idea is that when we love someone, we wait for the other party to close the door or close the phone. And when we don't like speaking to someone, before they can even finish their salam, we close the phone on them. They're not even done saying salam. I'm done with this guy. I'm done with her. That's called humuza in lumuza. This breaks a person's heart. How many of us have been in situations where we enter into a space that is a new space for us? And because of the way people are looking at us and kind of just eyeing us, we don't feel comfortable. We don't feel welcome. It's not because they're not religious. It's rather because they don't know what a true heart of a believer looks like. The Prophet ﷺ would have slaves, maids, servants walking to the masjid, someone urinating in the corner of the masjid, and his heart was big enough to say that I still love you. It's not okay just to feel that way when people help us. It's important to feel that way for those who are weak and vulnerable within the community that we live in. A lady in the masjid that would sweep the Prophet's masjid, she was the janitor of the masjid. The Prophet ﷺ was loved by his companions because of how much he loved them. He put value in them. He made them feel like they belonged, not because he gave them money. He made them feel like he belonged because his presence brought them value. He took nothing but gave so much. This elderly lady passes away. The Prophet ﷺ comes and says, where is this elderly lady at? She said, they say, Ya Rasul, she's passed away. So let's go pray janazah. They said, no, we've already prayed janazah upon her. The Prophet says, what are you talking about? Why didn't you tell me so I could also pray upon her? So I could also be there for her janazah. How many loved ones in our community pass away? We find out they were buried, but yet we don't have the time, the courage, just the care to message their loved ones. Imagine if that was your brother, your sister, your mother, your father. I lost my brother, rahmatullahi alayhi, 3 years ago in a car accident when he was 22 years old. Every text message matters. Every call matters. Don't think maybe they're not ready. That's not for you to decide. That's for them to decide. Maybe they're not ready for me to call them. Just call. That's your response. Your responsibility is not to know whether or not they're ready. Your responsibility is to be present. I'm not ready to go to their house. I'm not ready to go for their janazah. How many weddings have we gone to and how many janazahs have we been present for? Weddings benefit us. Janazahs benefit the family. The Prophet saying, I wish you told me so I could pray janazah upon her. You know what we do? Well, alhamdulillah, okay, khair, they're already buried. It's okay. It is what it is. No! The Prophet said, well, tell me where her grave is. Dullani ala qabriha. Tell me where her grave is so I can go stand there and pray for her and pray upon her. Tell me where that family is so I can send something to them to show them that we are thinking of you. We love you. Believers are like this honeybee. We never burden people through our presence. We bring them comfort. The second quality of a honeybee is that this honeybee, whenever she comes upon the flower, she takes nectar, but she also gives back pollen. The honeybee never just takes. As believers, we're not just takers. The person initiates salam to me, that means they have stronger faith. So let's make sure to catch up by being the last person that lets go. The Prophet says, Allah in the Quran says, when people say salam to us, فَحَيُّوا بِأَحْسَنَ مِنْهَا أَوْ رَدُّوهَا. If they say assalamu alaikum to you, say wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. We always give back. I came to Toronto, I'm in here for a day. Let's say, for example, I borrowed someone's car. You know what you and I do? Like, for sure, me. Like, I'm American. We're not that, especially right now, we're not the best people. Hey, I'll throw you guys a da'wah when we include you all. You know, hopefully that doesn't happen. May Allah protect everyone and bring ease. But if I'm here, I borrow someone's car, you know what I would do? What we all do? That person gives me the car at half gas, half the gas is full. Man, we know this as a fact. That I would return the car just with enough gas that person can turn it on, take it to the gas station. That's not a believer. That's my pathway of forgiveness. As a believer, I give back. I was not entitled for him to give me his car. He doesn't have to give it to me. Our parents don't have to buy us a car. They don't have to buy us things. Entitlement is the cancer of gratitude. No entitled person in the history of humanity has ever been grateful. Entitlement is the regression of good, moral, upright character. just being genuine. Because entitled people cannot be genuine. We believe that we deserve everything that we've got. And we deserve more than what we've been given. Give back more. Fill up the tank and give it back. That's what a believer does. And lastly, a believer is not like a munafiq. The Prophet says, Al-munafiqu kadhubab. The munafiq is like a fly. No one wants a fly around. They're very irritating. The sound of a fly bothers you. And a fly, whenever it enters into a space like your home and on your dinner table, the fly will always sit on food that's already been consumed. It sits on food that's already been touched. And a honeybee will not generally sit upon a pollinated flower. She looked for something pure. A believer finds purity in each other. The Prophet says this concept is that if I find 99 negative qualities in a person, but there's one good thing, just talk about that one good thing. No buts, ifs, and whys. Yeah, he's really nice, but no. We want to be forgiven, don't talk about people. Yes, our crying at night will benefit us by allowing the mercy of Allah to hover above us, but will it reach our hearts? No. Until we forgive people and start being people who are genuinely good people, good Muslims and kind individuals. We find 99 good qualities in a person. This is what a fly does, a munafiq. 99 good qualities, but one negative thing comes up, that's all they focus on. You go to a da'wah or you go to a wedding and you leave and it's like, man, alhamdulillah, man, the food was really good. It was hit, the appetizers, it was faluda, there was everything, was killer. But chai thandi thi. The heck you mean chai thandi thi? Like the tea was cold. Why is that important to say? Why can't we just stop where the benefit stops? That's what a believer does. A believer doesn't go beyond that which harms him. The moment I said that, this wasn't good, I just spilt water over everything else. So the access of Allah's mercy is reliant upon me being kind to other people. The second right of a believer was responding to their invitation. The third right of a believer is making dua for them. Tashmitul atish, making dua for one another. The best dua that is accepted is a dua that includes someone else. We struggle to make dua for even our own parents. And it's not because we don't love them, it's simply because we don't think it is an important component in our dua for us to benefit through. My dear friends, in ahsantum li anfusikum. Allah says, and I'm speaking to myself more than anyone here, and these last 10 nights, I'm struggling with this. People have harmed all of us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, look, when you do good to someone, you're doing it for yourself. You're not benefiting them. Irhamu turhamu. The first beneficiary of me raising my hands and making dua for my sibling is that Allah gives it to me as well. Allah benefits me as well. The mindset of a believer is to understand my goodness towards people benefits me before it benefits them. I hide someone's sins, Allah hides my sins. I make dua for someone else, the angels say Ameen for me. The angels say Ameen for me. Do we not need Allah's forgiveness? We make dua for people who have harmed us. Abu Bakr radiyallahu, one of the most difficult stories to swallow and to understand of forgiveness in the Quran is a story of Aisha radiyallahu anha when she was accused of the unspeakable act. That they accused her of doing an act that is below any one of us. Forget the wife of the Prophet ﷺ and the mother of the believers and the daughter of Abu Bakr radiyallahu anha. And amongst them was a man by the name of Mistah who was a believer. He got caught in the crossfire because when people gossip, they will get caught in ghibah. Because some of it may be true, but the one lie in there is enough for all of that to be lost. The Prophet ﷺ was asked by the companions, what if it's true? What if I'm speaking about someone through a negative quality? We act as if me speaking about someone's negative qualities is going to fix them. No, it's okay. That's within them. If I don't have the relationship to speak to them directly about it, simply make dua for them. That's where my liability ends, and that's where my autonomy ends. Beyond that, my tongue does not have jurisdiction to speak about anyone else. Leave it alone. It's not within our range of what we should be engaging with. So this man accuses the daughter of Abu Bakr radhiyallahu anhu. And Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Mistah is a believer. He's a Badri Sahaba, meaning that he's from the elite Sahaba. He got caught in the crossfire. And when Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, when Aisha radiallahu anha's name was cleared by the Quran and 10 ayat were revealed to clear her name, and everyone knew that all of this was a big lie that was made up against her from the munafiqun, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was responsible just because he was nice to pretty much sponsor Mistah. Mistah was financially dependent upon him. He paid for his migration. He took care of his housing. He took care of his daily expenditures. He was responsible for him. He took, not because he needed to. He wasn't his son or his daughter. He just did it on his own. The moment he found out that his daughter was, her name was cleared and she was innocent and this man was a part of it, he said, Wallahi, after today, I will never give him a dime again. And that he's completely within his right to say that. I will never give him anything again. The fact that he hurt me by speaking so negatively about my daughter, not speaking in a negative tone to me, not looking at me. By the way, so on one side of the spectrum, we don't want to harm anyone. On the other side of the spectrum, we want to forgive everyone. On one side, we want to be as careful as possible not to be the one that harms a person. But if we are harmed, we're fallible creatures. We will make mistakes. We will hurt one another. There's no such thing as living under the same roof and not getting into arguments. There's no such thing as being friends and not getting into this tussle. There are friends that loved each other for... I've met a youngsters a few weeks ago who, as siblings, in their mid-20s, haven't spoken to each other for 5 years over a business that they were doing together. Habibi, you're brothers. There is no greater blessing in life than siblings. Forgive each other. Find Allah in your forgiveness. The tears of crying to Allah are not as joyful to experience than the tears of forgiving someone. When you forgive someone and you hug each other and you're crying, wallahi, there's a different fulfillment in that. That's what makes you feel like you're a true believer. They're able to forgive you. They don't have to ask. I can engage with them as well. If every person that harmed us was to ask us, then we're not really virtuous people. We just are doing our part. But can we forgive without being asked? So he says, Wallahi, I will never give this person any stipend anymore. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals in the Quran directly to Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu, فَلْيَعْفُوا وَلْيَصْفَحُوا. Forgive him. I know he harmed you. Imagine someone speaking like that about your daughter, your sister, your mother. Someone speaking in such a vile way about our own family. Man, someone looks at our father wrong, we get upset. And as we should. But we also need, as quickly as we get upset, we should be able to forgive faster. Umar radiallahu anhu would get upset quick, but he would forgive faster than that. Hassan al-Basri rahmatullahi alayhi says the worst person is the one who gets upset very quick, but forgives very slowly. Takes their time to forgive. So Allah says to him, forgive the person. وَلْيَصْفَحُوا, turn the page. أَلَا تُحِبُّونَ أَن يَغْفِرَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. Don't you want Allah to forgive you? Allah is saying to Abu Bakr, don't you want Allah to forgive you? So forgive the person. So making dua for people behind their back is a right of a believer. Ayadatul marid, visiting the sick. In these last 10 days, yes, we cry, yes, we pray. But how many of us will take the responsibility to visit a sick Muslim? We're enjoying Ramadan right here. إِنَّ أَحَبَّ الْأَعْمَالِ إِلَى اللَّهِ. Hassan al-Basri rahmatullahi alayhi says that a person doesn't know which deed of theirs will spring upon them Allah's love and forgiveness. It could be a dua, it could be tahajjud, but it could also be serving someone else. The Prophet says that the most beloved deed to Allah is that we can allow someone else to experience joy because of us. We can bring them a smile on their face. We can make them feel good despite their inner struggle. Everyone is in pain, man. Everyone's struggling with something. We don't need negative energy in our community. We need positive speech in our community. قولوا, speak good. قولا معروفا. Refer to people in good terms. Not even when we joke. Let's not use terminologies about people that will harm them. Let's not plant a seed of negativity in someone's heart about someone else. This is a quality of shaitan. يَنْزِغُ بَيْنَهُمْ Shaitan every single night calls all of his little shayateen, all of his minions. And he says to them, right at the end of the tail end of the night, he says to them, okay guys, give me the recap of the day. What are your metrics? So one shaitan stands up and says, hey, today I made someone miss Fajr. So, okay, cool, not bad. Next one, what did you do today? He says, today I made someone lie. Okay, cool, good job. Next person, today I made someone do this. Okay, nice. Finally, this little tiny shaitan stands up and says, you know what? So what did you do today? He said, today I made two people who loved each other fight. And I brought enmity between their hearts. Shaitan stands up, says, you, come here, sit on my chair. You're my wakil. You're my agent. You're royalty. Because if you can make a believer fight with each other, that is the ultimate goal that I have. Because we can't grow as a community and as a family when there's friction in the heart. Like Eid. Is Eid enjoyable if you can't forgive your loved ones? You're hugging each other, but there's not love in the heart. You're looking, man, your brothers and sisters and your friends are with you today. Imagine if this is the last Eid we have with them. Everyone thinks about, man, I can't wait that one day I'll forgive them, we'll go for Umrah together. Make that tonight. There's people that we have issues with. But what if they die tomorrow? What if this is their last Eid? Could you forgive yourself? And can I forgive myself if the person that I enjoyed having a relationship with, we ended our relationship with an argument and the other person died? Imagine our last conversation with our father or mother being an argument, we leave this world, or they pass away. Would it be worth it? You and I would not be able to forgive ourselves. That I wish I said something before they left this world. Well, that's the time. This is the time for it. That we find a way to reach out to this person. It's not because they need it. It's because I need it. Imam Shafi rahmatullahi alayhi was asked once, why do we see that you always forgive people? Imam Shafi rahmatullahi alayhi was harmed by Muslims. But he continued to forgive people. Forgive and forgive. Yes, self-care is important. Looking after your heart is important. I don't doubt that, neither do I disregard that. But not every pain of the heart or inconvenience of the body can be assumed that it's because of my self-care that I can't forgive the person. There is more enjoyment in forgiving than harboring hate. We don't forgive. Man, we don't have enough time. Sheikh Sulaiman Mullah is a great scholar. He says, we don't have enough time to love properly. Where do we find time to hate? We don't even have enough time to love correctly. Our children are growing up in front of us. Our siblings are becoming old. Our parents are losing their level of, their ability to do the normal things of life. And yet I can't forgive them because I simply think that they deserve my harshness. They deserve me standing up. This is my right. Yes, it is your right. But if you let it go for a moment, Allah will forgive you for it. I benefit from it more than anyone else. أَلَا تُحِبُّونَ أَن يَغْفِرَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. We would not be able to forgive ourselves if our last interaction with someone that we love is that we left on bad terms. It would haunt us. Allah is saying, forgive Mistah. Abu Bakr radhiallahu anhu says, oh Allah, I have forgiven Mistah. I have forgiven Mistah. Iyadatul marid. He says, I don't know where Allah's forgiveness is hidden. For some of us, Allah's forgiveness is hidden is in visiting our sick grandparents, in calling our grandparents back home and asking them how their Ramadan is going. Everyone asks those that are within our social circles. But what about those? We always talk about those that are forgotten, the marginalized. Okay, there are people marginalized in our own families. There are people that no one speaks to anymore because they're too old and everyone finds them to be a liability. Wallahi, I'm telling you, like, an opportunity is only an opportunity if we consider it to be a blessing. If we consider it to be a burden, then we will never be kind if we think being kind is a burden. We will never call people who are sick or go visit someone in the hospital from our family, in our community. Imagine visiting a sick auntie or uncle in the hospital in these last 10 nights. Like, her dua will take you straight to heaven. We are sinful people. We're filled with sins. I raise my hands and I know what these eyes have done, these ears have done, these hands have done. But imagine asking an elderly person who has white hair, not asking. There's a difference between asking someone for their dua and earning their dua. Earn it through service. Earn the dua of our elders in these last nights. Find a way to serve them. Iyadatul marid. And the last right of a believer is ittiba'ul janaiz. Going to visit and being present for the janazah. Being there for people in the harshest moments of their life, being a shoulder that they can cry upon. How many people have put their heads on my shoulder and cried? How many people call me when they're struggling? How many people reach out to me when they're in pain? And if no one does, that silence can be problematic. Am I not present enough for people? Did I not show enough kindness that for the Prophet ﷺ, even a kid in the masjid, when he lost his bird, the Prophet recognized it. We talk about prophetic character when it comes to serving our, fellow non-Muslims and, good interfaith dialogue, and when we serve those who are, masakeen. But how about serving our own friends and family? That's where it began. We always read the hadith of the best of you are the ones who are best to your spouses and families. It extends to anyone within our social circle that live with us. They should benefit from our good character. They should take from us. And if they've harmed us, forgive them. I'll mention 2 or 3 stories about forgiveness, my dear friends. And we all make an intention that we will start forgiving one another. There was a man that one day walks by the Prophet ﷺ. He walks by. And the Prophet ﷺ looks at him and he says, رَجُلٌ مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْجَنَّةِ. That is a person, that's a human walking on the earth, but he's already in Jannah. He's already been guaranteed Jannah. So the Sahaba see him, they don't even know his name. Ordinary companion, if I can even say that. Second day he comes by, the Prophet says again, this is a man of Jannah. Sahaba are once like, who is this dude? Third day, the Prophet ﷺ sees him, says the same thing. Amr ibn As, Abdullah ibn Amr, who was a young companion, he's intrigued by this person's deeds. He wants to know what he does that Allah has already given him Jannah. So he goes, knocks on his door. He says, uncle, me and my father have gotten into an argument. I need somewhere to stay. Can I crash with you for 3 days? That was the norm. 3 days was the norm. He said, of course, come. And his intention was, let me find out what this person does so that I can also mimic him. They will look for excuses to become like the people of Jannah. Like, if it was us, again, Canadians are nice people, right? Not as much anymore, though. I've landed in the airport in Pearson the last few times. Shush. You guys, how they say neighbors affect each other? We've affected you guys, not for the good, for the worse. They're so rough, looking at you, when you walk into a restaurant, someone's smiling, you feel comfortable ordering more. That's how it works. You want to give a bigger tip? Imagine people walking into your home and you don't smile at them. Imagine someone crossing your path and you just ignore them. The Prophet ﷺ would look down while he would walk. This is a miracle. That he would look down when he would walk, but he would still be the first one to initiate salam. How that would happen is because he would care. Not like this. Oh, I didn't see you. Well, why not? Itna bhi sufi na ho. Don't be that pious that you can't see people walking next to you. Say salam to people. Recognize that we're there. So he goes to this person's house and he says, I'm staying with you. 3 days pass by. Abdullah ibn Amr says, I'm checking this person's routine out. I'm like, man, he ain't that special. I'm praying more tahajjud than him. I'm doing more than him. What does he have that I don't have? So after the 3rd day, I say, uncle, the reality is that I never got into a fight with my father, but the Prophet said this about you. And I wanted to see what it was that you did so I could also bring it into my life. The man says, Wallahi, you've seen me for 3 days. You've observed me for 3 days. That is my life. He said, but I didn't see anything unique. What is it that you do that the Prophet said what he said about you? Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The man said, I don't know. Great people don't know the things that they do because they're great. When someone that doesn't play good basketball, every time they make a 3, yo, did you record that? Yo, did you record that? Bro, it's just a shot. And people that ball, it's like, bro, it's another day in the gym. Great people don't always oh my God, I can't believe I forgave someone. That's just the call of their nature. They forgive people. They don't look back and say, wow, you saw what I just did? You saw what I just forgave someone? No, you just forgive. and you move on. And don't let it hold you down, and don't let it make you feel too big. People always ask, how do you remain humble? By knowing that we're not special people. We're sinful. Knowing that we're sinful will knowing the sins that you've done will always keep you humble, regardless of the goodness that people see. And that's a blessing of Allah that we have those sins, or else we would not be humble people. And people that earn arrogance is because they don't recognize their own sins. So he says, I can't think of it, but if there's one thing that I do that perhaps is a little unique, is that every night before I go to sleep, I forgive everyone. I just forgive everyone. I let it out of my heart. Holding this phone for 30 seconds is easy. But imagine if I hold it for 30 minutes. It's the same phone, same weight, but it becomes heavier. It's harder to forgive if you hold it for too long. It's harder. Just let it go. So he says, I just forgive people. So the Prophet ﷺ, who was the epitome of this, and I'll end after this, who was the peak of being a person who was harmed by many, but was a cause of their ease and comfort. Never did he use people's persecution against him. Never did he use people's character towards him as leverage against him. We use people's character towards us as leverage against him. That you know what that guy did, you know what she did to me? Oh wow, I can't wait till the day comes where I can what? Like that's not how believers work. The believers, we don't hold a gun to each other's heads. Like there's no leverage in this. We forgive. It's okay. The Prophet ﷺ is entering into Makkah al-Mukarramah and Fath Makkah. Kicked out of this city. Persecuted, humiliated in this city. The greatest human being, the greatest of all creation, is walking back into this city. And as he's walking in, you and I can both imagine the PTSD that's crossing his mind. Sumayya being killed, radiyallahu anha, first shaheed of Islam. The stones pelting his body. Walking through the streets of Mecca and people mocking him and calling him names that no one should ever be called. Just experiencing all of this. And as he's walking in, people start saying, Al-yawmu yawm al-malhama. Today is the day of butchery. Today is the day of revenge. That today, those guys, it's coming for them. It's coming for them. The Prophet ﷺ hears this and he says to them, La taquli hakadha. Don't you say this. Don't say it's the day of revenge. Al-yawmu yawm al-marhama. Today is the day of forgiveness. Today we will show the world what it means like to be a believer. Wahshi, the man that killed the Prophet's uncle. The Prophet was asked by Aisha radiallahu anha, Ayyu yawmin ashaddu alayk. What was the most difficult day in your life? And the Prophet responded by saying, in Mecca it was Ta'if, and in Medina it was Uhud, when I lost my uncle Hamza. The Prophet loved Hamza. Wahshi, who was a man that killed Hamza radiallahu anhu and made him a shaheed, he walks into the Prophet's gathering and he has his face covered. He sits in front of the Prophet and he says, Ya Rasulullah, let me accept Islam. The Prophet says, lower your garb. Lower the covering of your face so I can see who it is that I'm speaking to. He lowers the cover on his face. And the Prophet says, Man anta, who are you? And what's your name? He says, my name is Wahshi. The Prophet stops. And he says, wait, come again? A Wahshiyun anta? A Wahshiyun anta? Are you actually Wahshi in the flesh, sitting in front of me right now, talking to me, and you killed my uncle? A Wahshiyun anta? And he says, Na'am ya Rasulullah, I am Wahshi. The Prophet says, no. A Wahshiyun anta aqatilu ammi? You're the Wahshi that killed my uncle? The same one? He says, yes, I am that same one. The Prophet says to him, well, before we move forward, I need some closure. Can you please tell me how you killed my uncle? Can you tell me why you killed him? Tell me, why did you bring me so much pain? Why did you do it for? The Prophet wanted closure like many of us want closure. Sometimes closure is good. Sometimes let it be the way it is. Let Allah roll out the dice for us. We don't have to know everything. I would love to know what turn and how the turn happened and why my brother swerved his car. I would love to know. what actually happened before he left this world. But that's in the ghaib, and that's for Allah. And that's where we find solace and comfort. Some things are better if we don't know them. That's where our heart stays sane and our heart remains upright. He says, tell me, why did you kill my uncle for, brother? He says, Ya Rasulullah, I didn't want to kill your uncle. I was a slave. And Hinda and Abu Sufyan were my masters. They said to me that they will give me freedom if I kill you. And I said that I can't kill you because you're divinely protected. It's not going to happen. Then they said, well, your second option is to kill Ali ibn Abi Talib. And I said to them, he's too quick and he's too smart. I can't kill him. He's just too good. They said, well, your third option is to kill Hamza. He said, you know what? I can try that. And he explains to the Prophet how he placed himself and he threw the spear. And as he's explaining the story, the Prophet ﷺ is اِخْتَنَقَ بِالْبُكَاء. He's choking on his tears. And he says, كَفَيْتَ كَفَيْتَ. It's enough. It's enough. It's enough. I don't need to hear more. Then Wahshi says, Ya Rasulullah, can you forgive me? Like we're talking about people, forgiving people for not inviting us to for their da'wah. We're talking about people to forgive if they harmed us in a business. We're talking about forgiving people because they said something to us a few years ago. Dear sisters and brothers, Allah's forgiveness is reliant upon me opening my heart to others. Allah's forgiveness is reliant upon me forgiving my parents and kissing them when you go home tonight, saying that I apologize for me harming you, for the words that I've said that have hurt you. None of us are able to earn Allah's pleasure if our parents are displeased with us. Not a single one of us can earn that mercy if our parents are unhappy with us. Not a single one of us can experience complete forgiveness if we cannot open our hearts towards people. The Prophet says, I forgive you. But you know what? Do me a favor. When you come to me, sit on the side, because every time I see you, I remember my uncle and it brings back that memory that you killed him. Just sit on the side. Yusuf alayhi salam, 50 years of persecution. His brothers come to him and he says, لا تثريب عليكم اليوم يغفر الله لكم. There's no blame upon you today. Allah will forgive you. The prophets, that the killer of the prophet's daughter, his name was Habad ibn Aswad. Zainab radiallahu anha was killed by this man throwing a spear at her camel. And she fell off the camel, she had a miscarriage, and the wounds of that fall is what she later passed away from. Zainab, the eldest of the Prophet's children. Your eldest is the most beloved to you, and your youngest. Zainab passes away because of this. The Prophet ﷺ is sitting there, and a man walks into the gathering in Fath Makkah, and he introduces himself, and he says, my name is Habbar. The Prophet ﷺ again says, what? Habbar? Qatilu binti? Man, you killed my daughter. You killed my daughter. And you're sitting in front of me. Imagine how popular the Prophet's forgiveness was in the community of Mecca, that a person who killed his daughter felt comfortable to sit in front of him. Just felt comfortable. I know if I ask, they will forgive. Are you comfortable enough forgiving someone who has harmed you? Am I comfortable enough forgiving my khala, my brother, my sister, my neighbor? Start from those who are closest to us. Don't start from those who are far. That's displacement of forgiveness. Start from those who are close, where it actually takes work and effort. The Prophet said, I forgive you too. وَلَا أُبَالِي. My dear brothers and sisters, مَا زَادَ اللَّهُ بِعَبْدٍ بِعَفْوٍ إِلَّا عِزًّا. Allah does not increase any of us when we forgive someone with anything except for more honor. People may think that we're weak. That's why we forgive. Let people think the way they want to think. We are worried about our Jannah. We are worried about our forgiveness. Allah, the Prophet says that Allah does not increase us in anything when we forgive, except that He honors us because we forgave one another. Don't we want the Prophet to recognize us on the Day of Judgment? Well, his greatest sunnah was his capacity to forgive people. Start with those who have harmed. Forgiveness doesn't mean that you have to forget what they did. Forgiveness means that now you give them their rights and you make dua for them as well. Start with those who are closest to you. Begin that journey tonight and forgive one another. Meet each other today and ask for forgiveness. Why is it so that when we go for Hajj and Umrah, we text everyone that please forgive us, please forgive me, please forgive me, please forgive me? Are the last 10 nights not a worship of Allah? Is Tahajjud not a great worship? Is Ramadan not special? Why do we do it for Umrah, not for Ramadan? Forgive because we know that forgiveness, when you go for Hajj, we know that Hajj ain't going to work if people are upset at me. So I asked, Ramadan ain't going to work if people are upset at me. Humble ourselves today so that we are honored tomorrow. Ask for forgiveness for those whom you've harmed. And forgive people without even asking. Clean your heart tonight so that now when we ask, there's no barriers and impediments between us and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The joy of Eid will be far more enjoyable, will be far more meaningful when the hearts of the believers and our families are clean for each other. That clean heart makes the hug mean something, makes the salam mean something, makes the kiss of a mother mean something, makes the embrace mean something. Forgive each other. Irhamu turhamu. I'll end with the Prophet's hadith. Forgive not because others need it. Forgive because we need it. Forgive because Allah's forgiveness will be found in my ability of letting go of other people's mistakes. If we can let go of other people's mistakes, Allah will oversee our mistakes in every aspect of our life. The quickest way, a great scholar by the name of Sufyan al-Thawri says, the quickest way to find Allah's mercy is to forgive the ones that He loves. And Allah loves you and I more than our mothers do. If we can forgive one another, Allah loves us. Allah will forgive us too. May Allah make us amongst those people that carry ourselves with true prophetic character, are inclusive not to those who can benefit us, are inclusive to those that can benefit from us. Make us amongst those people that our handshakes are not simply emotion, but rather they're filled with emotion as well. That our hugs are not simply a tap on the back, but the hearts feel each other. That our embraces are filled with peace and love. The salam truly gives salam. The touch truly makes us feel more close to each other. Allow us to be people that in these 9 nights that are left are able to earn Allah's forgiveness through a shortcut of forgiving people. May Allah make us amongst these people and allow us to be amongst the special, unique individuals that can honor the Prophet's sunnah of forgiving one another for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jazakallahu khair. Wa akhu da'awana alhamdulillah rabbil alameen.